The restaurant went silent when Patricia Hayes slid the document across the table. The leather folder made a soft sound against the white tablecloth. Everyone at our engagement dinner stopped eating. Forks hung in midair. Wine glasses paused halfway to mouths. I looked at the printed title, Daniel's Responsibilities. My fiancée Brielle sat beside me, her hand warm in mine. I waited for her to say something, to laugh it off, to tell her mother this was inappropriate. She did none of those things. She just squeezed my hand gently, like she was comforting me before surgery. "We believe in clarity," Patricia said, her voice measured and calm. "The Hayes family has always been direct about expectations. We've outlined your role moving forward." I opened the folder. Bullet points filled the page. Relocation within 1 year. Career transition to support family priorities. Financial contributions to the household estate. Limited involvement in major family decisions. The words blurred together, but their meaning was crystal clear. Ronald Hayes, Brielle's father, leaned forward. "We know this seems formal, Daniel, but tradition matters in this family. Every spouse understands their place." I looked at Brielle again. Her face was soft, expectant, waiting, not worried that I'd be angry, worried that I'd make a scene. So I didn't. "Okay," I said simply. The tension broke like a snapped wire. Patricia smiled. Ronald nodded with satisfaction. Vanessa, Brielle's older sister, actually smirked into her wine glass. They'd expected resistance, argument, maybe even me walking out. Instead, I'd given them exactly what they wanted. Compliance. After dinner, Brielle drove us back to my apartment. The city lights streaked past the windows. She kept one hand on my knee, her thumb drawing small circles through my jeans. "Thank you," she said softly. I looked at her. "For what?" "For being mature about tonight. For understanding how important family is to me." She pulled into a parking spot and turned off the engine. "My parents can be intense, but they mean well. They just want what's best for us." Us. The word felt wrong now, like it meant something different than I'd thought. "They've done this before?" I asked. Brielle hesitated, just for a second. "Done what?" "The document, the responsibilities list. Have other people who married into your family gotten the same treatment?" She pulled her hand back from my knee. "It's not treatment, Daniel. It's how we operate. My parents built everything from nothing. They're protective of what they created. Is that really so wrong?" I wanted to say yes. I wanted to ask why she hadn't warned me, why she'd sat there silent while her mother handed me a script for the rest of my life. But something in her eyes stopped me. She looked relieved, grateful that I hadn't fought back. That hurt more than the document itself. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from dinner. Patricia's confident smile, Ronald's expectant nod, Vanessa's smirk, and Brielle's silence. That silence was louder than anything her family had said. Around 3 a.m, I got up and read through the document again. It was professionally formatted, legal language mixed with casual demands. Someone had spent real time creating this. It wasn't thrown together the night before our engagement dinner. This had been planned. I opened my laptop and started a new folder. I labeled it Timeline and began documenting everything. Dates, conversations, who said what and when. I didn't know why yet. Instinct, maybe, or just a feeling that something was coming that I needed to be ready for. By sunrise, I had 12 pages of notes. By breakfast, I knew I wasn't going to fight this publicly. I was going to let them think they'd won. 3 days later, Ronald called me, not texted, called at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. "Daniel, good morning. Do you have a moment to discuss logistics?" I sat up in bed. "Of course." "Excellent. Patricia and I have been reviewing your current employment situation. We think it's best if you begin transitioning out of your position within the next 6 months. The Hayes family portfolio requires dedicated attention, and your current career will conflict with those priorities." He said it like he was discussing weather patterns. Casual, obvious. "You want me to quit my job I said flatly. We want you to prioritize correctly. You're joining a family with substantial responsibilities. Your engineering work is admirable, but it's not compatible with the role you're stepping into. I thought about my job. 12 years building infrastructure projects. 3 promotions. A team I'd trained personally. Work I actually cared about. When should I give notice? I asked. Ronald paused. He'd expected pushback here too. Let's say by the end of summer. That gives you time to close out projects professionally. Okay, I said again. Another pause. You're being very reasonable about this, Daniel. I appreciate that maturity. After we hung up, I added the conversation to my timeline. Date, time, exact words. Then I went to work like nothing had changed. The following Sunday, Brielle's family invited me to brunch at their estate. The Hayes property sat on 40 acres outside the city. Old money architecture. Gardens that required full-time staff. A house that felt more like a museum than a home. Patricia met me at the door. Daniel, wonderful. Come in. We're having a family discussion today. Family discussion. Not family brunch. Not casual Sunday gathering. A discussion. They'd already gathered in the formal living room. Ronald in his leather chair. Vanessa on the couch, legs crossed, looking bored. Brielle by the window, phone in hand. She smiled when she saw me. Patricia gestured to an empty chair. Sit, please. We want to explain something important about how this family operates. I sat. The Hayes family has a tradition, Patricia began. When someone marries in, they're not joining as equals. They're becoming part of something larger than themselves. Something that existed before them and will exist after them. Do you understand the distinction? I think so, I said. Good. Because this tradition has protected our family for 3 generations. We've built wealth, reputation, and stability by maintaining clear roles. The family leads. Spousal support. It's not personal. It's practical. Brielle spoke up from the window. It's why we're successful, Daniel. Everyone knows their purpose. I looked at her. She sounded like she was reading from a script, words that belonged to her mother, not herself. What happens if someone disagrees with their role? I asked. Vanessa laughed. They usually leave, or they learn. Patricia shot her daughter a look. What Vanessa means is that adjustment takes time. But ultimately, people realize the system works. It removes confusion. It prevents conflict. And I'm agreeing to this, I said slowly, by marrying Brielle. Exactly, Ronald said. Smart man. After brunch, I helped clear dishes. Vanessa followed me into the kitchen, leaning against the counter while I rinsed plates. You're handling this better than the last one, she said casually. I stopped rinsing. The last one, Brielle's ex-fiancé. Before you, he didn't make it past the first family meeting. Vanessa examined her nails, started yelling about autonomy and respect. It was embarrassing. Mother had to escort him out. What happened to him? No idea. He left. Brielle moved on. She looked at me directly. You'll never really belong here, you know. No matter how agreeable you are. This family has rules. You're just learning to follow them. I dried my hands slowly. Thank you for the honesty. She frowned. You're not angry? Should I be? Most people would be. I smiled. Not warmly. Just enough. I'm not most people. She left the kitchen looking confused, like she'd thrown a punch and hit nothing but air. I added her words to my timeline. 2 weeks after that conversation, Patricia scheduled what she called a financial planning session. Translation, they wanted control of my money. We gathered in Ronald's home office. Leather-bound books lined the walls. A mahogany desk dominated the space. Everything in this house screamed old money and older control. Patricia pulled up a spreadsheet on a tablet. We've outlined a budget structure for your transition into the family. Your current income will be redirected into the Hayes Family Trust. You'll receive a monthly allowance for personal expenses. All major purchases require approval. I scanned the numbers. They'd calculated everything down to my gym membership. Does include my savings? I asked. Eventually, yes, once you're married. Until then, we recommend gradually transferring assets to demonstrate commitment. Ronald added, think of it as investment. You're investing in this family's future, in Brielle's future. Brielle sat beside me, nodding along, like this was all perfectly normal. What if I need money for an emergency? I asked. You request it, Patricia said simply. We review the situation and approve appropriate funds. I looked at each of them. They were completely serious. Okay, I said. Patricia actually looked pleased. You're adapting wonderfully, Daniel. This is exactly the attitude that builds lasting marriages. After the meeting, she started referring to me as easy to manage when talking to other family members. I heard her say it twice on phone calls. She wasn't trying to hide it. She thought she'd already won. That night, Brielle stayed over at my apartment. We ordered takeout and watched a movie, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept circling back to the budget spreadsheet, the allowance, the approval process. During commercial break, I asked, how long have your parents been planning this? Brielle looked at me. Planning what? The document, the role assignment, the financial control. When did they decide all of this? She shifted uncomfortably. It's not like they sat down and plotted against you, Daniel. That's not what I asked. She sighed. They started discussing expectations after we'd been dating for about a year, when things got serious. They want to make sure anyone I married understood the family structure. A year ago, I said slowly, before I proposed. Yes. So when I asked you to marry me, you already knew your family had plans for me. She stood up. Don't make it sound sinister. They care about me, about us. They want to protect what they built. By controlling my career, my money, my decisions, by providing structure, she shot back. You agreed to this, Daniel. At the engagement dinner, at brunch, at the financial meeting. You said okay every single time. She was right. I had, and that's exactly what I needed her to believe. The premarital agreement arrived by courier on a Wednesday afternoon. Thick envelope, official letterhead. Ronald Hayes' signature already on the cover letter. This is standard procedure. The letter read, please review with your attorney and return signed copies within 2 weeks. The agreement was 47 pages long. Dense legal language. Clauses about property division, financial responsibilities, behavioral expectations. Buried in Section 12 was a paragraph about family decision-making authority. Another in Section 19 about dispute resolution. The whole document was designed to lock me into the role they'd outlined at that first dinner. I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. Lucas Ford. The name came up when I'd been researching the Hayes family online. He'd worked as their family attorney for 8 years before suddenly leaving the firm. No public explanation. No drama. Just gone. When I called his new office, he answered personally. Daniel Cross. I said, I need someone to review a premarital agreement. Who's it from? The Hayes family. Long pause. Can you come to my office today? Lucas Ford's new practice operated out of a modest building downtown. No fancy reception area. No mahogany furniture. Just clean offices and honest work. He read through the Hayes agreement without speaking. 47 pages took him maybe 20 minutes. When he finished, he set it down carefully. They've used this before, he said quietly. Used what? This exact agreement. I drafted earlier versions of it when I worked for them. They've had 3 different people sign it. All 3 married into the family. All 3 lost significant assets and autonomy within 2 years. My stomach tightened. What happened to them? Divorces, settlements that favored the Hayes family, and non-disclosure agreements that prevented anyone from talking about what really happened. He looked at me. Why are you showing this to me? Because something feels wrong, and I need to know if I'm crazy or if they're really trying to trap me. Lucas leaned back in his chair. You're not crazy. This document is designed to transfer power gradually. You won't notice until it's too late. By the time you realize what you've agreed to, they'll own your finances, your career options, even your social connections. The Hayes family doesn't want partners. They want dependents. Can I fight it? You could, but they'd bury you in legal fees. They have resources you don't. He paused. Unless you're smart about this. What do you mean? He pulled out a blank legal pad. Tell me everything they've asked you to do. Every conversation. Every document. Every promise. I opened my laptop and showed him my timeline. Lucas read for 30 minutes. Then he smiled. Actually smiled. Daniel, he said slowly, I think they just handed you a weapon. Lucas explained the pattern clearly. The Hayes family had perfected a system. They identified control points. Career, money, social circles. Then they systematically eliminated each one until the spouse had nowhere else to turn. But they make one critical mistake. Lucas said, they assume compliance means defeat. They stop watching carefully once someone agrees to their terms. So I keep agreeing. I said, exactly. You become everything they expect. Quiet, cooperative, grateful. And while they're celebrating their control, we document every single overstep. He flipped to section 23 of the agreement, a paragraph about undue family interference. This clause was my addition, Lucas explained. Years ago, when I still believed the Hayes family operated in good faith, it states that if one party can prove systematic family interference, in the marriage, the agreement becomes void, not just canceled, reversed. Every protection they built for themselves turns against them. They didn't remove it. They probably didn't notice. It's buried in legal language, and they've never had anyone challenge them before. Previous spouses just left quietly. I read the clause 3 times. So, if I can prove they're interfering, you don't just walk away. You walk away with your assets protected, your career intact, and their reputation damaged by their own document. What do I need to do? Lucas handed me a small recording device. Keep documenting. Every demand, every meeting, every message. Build an ironclad case. And when the time comes, we'll make sure everyone sees exactly who the Hayes family really is. I became the perfect future son-in-law. Agreeable in every meeting. Quiet during family discussions. Grateful for their guidance. Patricia started bragging to her friends about how well I'd adapted to Hayes family standards. I overheard her once, talking on the phone in the hallway. Daniel's been wonderful. So much easier than Vanessa's husband. No pushback at all. He understands his place. She said it like she was discussing a well-trained pet. I smiled and kept documenting. Every week brought new demands. Patricia wanted input on my wardrobe. Ronald suggested I cut ties with friends they deemed incompatible with family image. Vanessa forwarded me articles about successful family businesses, each one highlighting obedient spouses who'd sacrificed personal ambitions. I agreed to everything. Brielle watched this transformation with visible relief. One night, after another family dinner where I nodded along to Ronald's career advice, she kissed me in the car. You've changed, she said softly. Change how? You're calmer, less stressed. I think you're finally seeing how good this can be. How much easier life is when you're part of something bigger. I kissed her back. Yeah, I'm seeing it clearly now. But something shifted in Brielle too. She started watching me with confusion, like she couldn't quite figure out why I'd stopped resisting. One Saturday morning, she made coffee and sat across from me at the kitchen table. Can I ask you something honestly? She said. Of course. Why are you suddenly so okay with everything? A month ago, you were asking questions. Now you just agree. What changed? I looked at her carefully. This was a test. Maybe not a conscious one, but a test nonetheless. I trust your family, I said simply. They've done this before. They know what works. Why would I fight experience? She studied my face. You really mean that? I do. Relief flooded her features. I'm so glad. I was worried you'd keep pushing back, that we'd spend our whole marriage fighting about boundaries and independence. But you get it now. You understand that sometimes the easiest path is just letting people who know better make decisions. Letting people who know better make decisions. That sentence told me everything I needed to know about who Brielle had become, or maybe who she'd always been. I felt nothing when she said it. No anger. No sadness, just cold, clear certainty. The Hayes family threw an engagement party 6 weeks before the wedding. 200 guests, a rented ballroom, champagne towers, and string quartets. The kind of event designed to broadcast wealth and control. Patricia tapped her glass during dinner. The room quieted instantly. "I want to thank everyone for celebrating with us tonight," she began. "Brielle and Daniel's marriage represents everything our family values. Tradition, stability, respect for established structure." She smiled at me across the room. "Daniel has shown remarkable maturity in understanding his role. He's embraced our family's expectations with grace. After the wedding, he'll be relocating to the guest house on our property. This arrangement allows us to provide support during the transition while maintaining appropriate family proximity." Applause filled the ballroom. People I'd never met were clapping for my surrender. I raised my glass and smiled. Brielle squeezed my hand under the table. She looked happy, genuinely happy, and that hurt more than anything her family had done. Later that night, I met Lucas at his office. I handed him recordings from the past 6 weeks. Conversations where Patricia discussed my training. Messages from Vanessa about transferring assets early. An email from Ronald suggesting I decline a promotion at work to avoid unnecessary complications. Lucas listened to everything twice. Then he opened the premarital agreement to Section 23. "This is systematic interference," he said. "Every legal standard is met. They're not suggesting. They're dictating. Career, housing, finances, social connections, all outside normal marital expectations. Is it enough?" He nodded slowly. "It's more than enough. The recordings alone would hold up in court. The written demands are even better. They've documented their own overreach. What happens when I file the counterclaim? The agreement reverses. Every clause that protected them now protects you. They can't touch your assets, can't dictate your career, can't enforce any of their requirements. And the interference clause includes a penalty provision. They'll have to cover your legal fees and compensate for damages." "How much?" Lucas smiled. "Based on documented interference and emotional damages? Probably around $300,000. Plus they lose their ability to enforce any future agreements with other spouses. The precedent you set will protect everyone else they try to control." I sat back in my chair. "I need to sign their agreement first, don't I?" "Yes. Let them think they've won completely. Then we file the addendum and counterclaim 24 hours later. By the time they realize what happened, it'll be too late." Vanessa overplayed her hand 3 days before the signing. She sent a message at 2 in the morning. I was awake, reviewing documents, when my phone buzzed. "Mother thinks you should transfer your savings early, before the wedding. Prove you're committed to this family. Show us you trust the process." I screenshot the message immediately. She followed up 10 minutes later. "And maybe cut contact with your college friends. They seem like bad influences. Family should be enough." Another screenshot. Then, realizing she'd gone too far, she deleted both messages. But I'd already backed them up to 3 different locations. Lucas had taught me that evidence means nothing if you can't preserve it. I sent her a simple response. "I'll think about it." She never mentioned it again. But the screenshots went straight into the case file. I gave Brielle one final chance. We met for dinner at our favorite restaurant, the place we'd gone on our first date. She wore the dress I'd always loved. She smiled like nothing had changed. Over dessert, I asked her directly, "Do you ever worry your family is too controlling?" She set down her fork. "Controlling how?" "The document, the budget, the relocation, the career changes. All of it. Do you ever think they're asking too much?" She reached across the table and took my hand. "Daniel, I know it seems like a lot, but think about what we're gaining. Stability, support, a foundation most couples spend years building. My family is offering us that immediately. Why would we fight it?" "Because it's not us building anything," I said quietly. "It's them building something and telling us where to stand." "Why does that bother you?" She genuinely looked confused. "This is easier. We don't have to struggle. We don't have to figure everything out alone. They've already done the work. We just have to follow the path they've cleared. She said it like it was a gift. What if I want to clear my own path? I asked. Her hand pulled back slightly. Then you'd struggle unnecessarily and probably fail. Daniel, I love you, but my family knows what works. Fighting them is just fighting reality. Fighting them is just fighting reality. That was the moment I knew Brielle wasn't a victim of her family's control. She was a willing participant. She'd chosen comfort over partnership, ease over effort. She'd chosen them over me before we'd even gotten engaged. Something in my chest went cold and quiet. You're right, I said softly. Why fight when this is easier? She smiled, relieved again. I felt nothing. The signing ceremony happened on a Thursday afternoon. The Hayes family gathered in Ronald's office. Their attorney sat at one end of the table. Lucas, posing as my attorney, sat at the other. Patricia looked confident. Ronald kept checking his watch like this was a formality. Vanessa scrolled through her phone, bored. Brielle sat beside me, holding my hand. The Hayes family attorney walked through each section. 47 pages of control, disguised as protection. I initialed every page. Sign where instructed. Smile when appropriate. Congratulations, Patricia said when I signed the final page. Welcome to the family, Daniel. Everyone shook hands. The attorney collected the documents. Ronald poured whiskey for a toast. I excused myself to use the bathroom. In the hallway, I texted Lucas from my personal phone. Filed. He responded immediately. 20 minutes ago. Addendum and counterclaim are officially registered. The clock starts now. I returned to the office and raised my glass with everyone else. The next morning, Lucas arrived at the Hayes estate unannounced. I was there for breakfast. The family sat around a dining table, discussing wedding final details, when the doorbell rang. Patricia looked annoyed. We're not expecting anyone. Their housekeeper showed Lucas into the dining room. Ronald stood up. Lucas, what are you doing here? Lucas set his briefcase on the table. I'm here as Daniel Cross's legal representative. We need to discuss the agreement signed yesterday. The room went silent. What agreement? Patricia said slowly. Lucas pulled out a folder. The premarital agreement. Specifically, Section 23 regarding family interference. Daniel has filed a counterclaim based on systematic overreach. The clause you included in your document now protects him instead of you. Ronald's face drained of color. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's already filed. Judge approved it this morning. The agreement you thought protected your family now places all control in Daniel's hands. Every demand you made, every boundary you crossed, every financial manipulation, all documented, all admissible, all reversed. Lucas opened a folder and spread out documents, recordings, transcripts, screenshots, my timeline printed in 40 pages of detailed evidence. Section 23 states clearly, Lucas continued, that proven family interference voids the agreement and reverses all provisions. You didn't just interfere. You orchestrated control from the moment Daniel entered this family. The court agrees. This agreement is now Daniel's protection, not yours. Patricia's hand started shaking. She picked up one of the transcripts and read it. Her own words, printed clearly. Daniel's been wonderful. So much easier to manage than Vanessa's husband. Vanessa grabbed another document. Her deleted messages, recovered and screenshot. Transfer your savings early. Prove you're committed. Ronald just stared at Lucas. You work for us. You helped create these agreements. I did, Lucas said calmly, which is why I know exactly how you weaponize them. I left your employment because I couldn't stomach watching you trap people anymore. When Daniel contacted me, I saw a chance to finally stop you. Brielle turned to me. You planned this? All of it. I met her eyes. I documented it. There's a difference. You lied to us. I agreed to everything you asked. I never lied once. You just assumed agreement meant defeat. Patricia tried to stand, but her legs wobbled. This is betrayal. Lucas's voice stayed level. No. Betrayal is handing someone a document designed to strip their autonomy. Betrayal is celebrating when they're too intimidated to fight back. Betrayal is building a system that punishes people for marrying into your family. He pushed another document across the table. This is a penalty assessment. Based on documented interference, emotional damages, and legal precedent, the Hayes family owes Daniel $350,000, plus his legal fees, plus a formal retraction of all demands placed on him. We'll fight this, Ronald said. You'll lose. The judge reviewed everything. Your own document contains a clause that destroys you. Fighting will only make it more public, more expensive, more embarrassing. Patricia's control shattered visibly. She stood up, her chair scraping hard against the floor. You ungrateful. We welcomed you into this family. We offered you everything. You offered me a cage, I said quietly, and you expected me to thank you for it. We could have destroyed you. We could have made sure you never worked in this city again. Lucas smiled, not warmly. And statements like that? That's why Daniel recorded everything. Keep talking, Patricia. You're just strengthening the case. She realized too late. Her outburst, her threats, all of it was exactly the kind of behavior that proved the interference wasn't about tradition or support. It was about dominance. Vanessa tried next. You signed that agreement voluntarily. No one forced you. You're right, I said. I signed voluntarily. After your family spent months manipulating every aspect of my life. After being told my career didn't matter. After being assigned an allowance like a child. After being relocated to property I didn't choose. The agreement was voluntary the same way surrender is voluntary when someone holds all the power. Lucas added, the law recognizes coercion even when signatures are freely given. Context matters. Pattern matters. The Hayes family created an environment where Daniel's only options were submission or social destruction. That's not voluntary. That's systematic pressure. And it's exactly what Section 23 was designed to prevent. Brielle hadn't moved. She sat frozen, staring at the document spread across the table. Say something, Patricia demanded. Brielle looked at me. I didn't think it would go this far. What did you think would happen? I asked. I thought you'd just adapt. Everyone else does. You seem fine with everything. I wasn't fine. I was documenting. But you agreed. You said okay to everything. Because you never asked what I actually wanted. You told me what to accept. There's a difference. Her voice went small. I thought you loved me enough to make this work. I did love you, I said. And it was true. Past tense. But you loved your family's approval more than you loved me. You chose comfort over defending me. Every single time I needed you to speak up, you stayed silent. That silence told me everything. She started crying. Not dramatic sobs. Just quiet tears that might have moved me a month ago. Now I felt nothing. You're really going to end this? She asked. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the engagement ring, set it gently on the table between us. Yes, I said simply. No yelling. No accusations. No drama. Just clarity. The room felt smaller without my compliance. Like the walls had shifted when I stopped filling the space they'd assigned me. Ronald tried one more time. Daniel, we can renegotiate. Start fresh. Forget the agreement entirely. You can't forget it. It's already filed. Already approved. And I'm not interested in renegotiating with people who thought controlling me was acceptable in the first place. Patricia's voice cracked. You're going to humiliate this family publicly. No, you did that yourselves. I'm just making sure everyone knows why I'm walking away. The court documents are public record. Anyone who wants to know what really happened can read them. Lucas stood up. Daniel's no longer bound by any Hayes family requirements. His assets are protected. His career is his own, and the financial penalty is due within 30 days. My office will handle the transfer details. He closed his briefcase and looked at each of them. One more thing. This case sets precedent. Future spouses who marry into families with similar control structures can now cite this ruling. You've lost your ability to enforce these agreements with anyone. Your system is done. Vanessa stood up and left without speaking. Just walked out of the dining room, out of the house. I heard her car start in the driveway. Ronald wouldn't look at me. He stared at the table like the answers might appear in the wood grain. Patricia kept shaking. Not from cold. From rage she couldn't express without making everything worse. I left the Hayes estate for the last time that afternoon. Lucas walked me to my car, while the family stayed inside their fortress, realizing it wasn't protection anymore. They'll try to discredit you, Lucas said. Socially, professionally, they'll tell people you manipulated them. Let them. The documents speak for themselves. You did this quietly. No public showdown. No social media exposure. Why? I thought about it. Because loud revenge is just noise. This way, every fact is documented. Every claim is provable. People who matter will see the truth. People who don't weren't going to support me anyway. Lucas smiled. You're handling this better than most people would. I'm handling it the way I should have from the start, by knowing my worth and refusing to negotiate it down. We shook hands. He drove away. I sat in my car for a moment, looking at the Hayes estate. All that wealth, all that control, all that confidence that tradition and money could shape people into whatever roles suited the family narrative. They'd been doing it for generations. Not anymore. The fallout took weeks to fully unfold. The Hayes family attempted damage control. Quiet phone calls to mutual friends. Careful explanations about misunderstandings and legal complications. But the court documents existed. Public record. Anyone who wanted the truth could find it. Vanessa stopped using social media entirely. Just disappeared from public view after screenshots of her messages appeared in legal filings. Ronald and Patricia hired 3 different law firms to find loopholes. All 3 reviewed the case and told them the same thing. They'd lost because their own document contained their defeat. Brielle sent me messages for 2 weeks. Apologies, explanations, promises that she'd stand up to her family if I'd reconsider. I never responded, not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing left to say. She'd chosen who she was when she sat silent at that engagement dinner. I just documented everything that came after. 3 months later, I heard through former mutual friends that the Hayes family stopped using their premarital agreements. The legal precedent made them unenforceable. Other families in their social circle quietly shelved similar documents, afraid of setting off their own internal challenges. Lucas called to tell me about 2 other people who'd contacted him. Previous spouses who'd signed Hayes agreements years ago. They were exploring options now, using my case as proof they hadn't been imagining the control. You didn't just protect yourself, Lucas said. You protected everyone else they would have done this to. 6 months after walking away, I was having coffee when I saw Patricia across the street. She saw me too. For a moment, we just looked at each other through the cafe window. She didn't wave, didn't approach, just turned and walked away. I finished my coffee and went back to work. My engineering job I'd kept. My apartment I'd chosen. My life I'd reclaimed. People sometimes asked if I regretted the engagement, if I wished I'd handled things differently. I didn't, because the story wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about destroying the Hayes family or embarrassing them publicly. It was about refusing to let anyone decide my role for me. They'd built a system designed to make people smaller, to make submission feel like tradition and control feel like guidance. I'd just shown that their system only worked when people didn't read carefully, didn't document thoroughly, didn't understand that agreement isn't the same as defeat. The Hayes family hadn't lost because I was vindictive. They'd lost because they assumed compliance meant victory. And I'd never been compliant. They'd just been patient. The engagement ring stayed on that dining table. I never asked for it back. Let them keep it. Let it sit in a drawer somewhere as a reminder. Some people thought I should have demanded more, pushed for bigger penalties, exposed them completely in media. But that wasn't the point. The point was walking away with everything they'd tried to take. My career, my money, my choices, my dignity. They hadn't just failed to control me. They'd lost the ability to control anyone else. That was justice. Quiet, documented, final, and far more satisfying than any dramatic confrontation could have been. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's just being free.